play on Thursday after being sidelined 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. You see him out there at practice today. He was full go and spoke to the media just moments ago.
It was very challenging, man. When I found out I had a hammy injury, and when I was told by the training staff how long I was going to be out and stuff like that, we got to do whatever we can, fast as we could to get back out there, and it's here. Took a little time, but we're here. Coach pretty much touched on that, talking about that with us in the team meeting. Each and every game going to be like a win-or-go-home game, we started off first season ever starting off like this slow, so we're going to have to just do or die right now, each and every week.
All right, welcome me to the show. We got Mina Kimes, Dan Orlovsky here, Marcus Spears joining us as well. Mina, let's start with this week. They play on Thursday. What do you want to see from Lamar Jackson in his return?
Well, I'd like to see dominance because they're going against Miami. I feel like they can attack that defense in a number of ways. But compared to what we saw earlier in the season before he got hurt, I think the number one you want to see is him taking fewer sacks. That was the biggest issue with the passing attack early on. His pressure to sack ratio, 33%, second highest in football. And that's not normal for Lamar Jackson, as of course you know. He doesn't take a lot of sacks. Last year, he had the fourth lowest pressure sack ratio in football. Some of that had to do with pass protection, but I would argue, Dan, much more of it had to do with the lack of pass catchers at his disposal, or the sort of inconsistency that they had that sort of kept it from looking like the passing offense last year. But Jackson himself also has to pull the trigger faster because that was an issue earlier this season.
Yeah, I totally agree. This football team and really this offense is probably the biggest unknown in the NFL right now. We haven't seen this version of the Ravens that we're going to watch on Thursday night. We haven't seen Lamar have the lineup of Ronnie Stanley and Mark Andrews and Patrick Ricard and DeAndre Hopkins all on the field together. So while they had this terribly slow start, we just haven't watched this group get on the field this year. And all of us had this expectation that this was a Super Bowl winning team. And the addition of a player like Keaton Mitchell, more touches for him, I know that the chips are stacked against them. But this is a great unknown. This is like the team that is lurking out there, because with Lamar back and everybody healthy, certainly on the offensive side, this team should look like the Super Bowl one we thought.
The first three quarters against Buffalo.
Exactly.
That looked like the best offense in football.
Ever. Yeah. So it's just a great unknown right now, and I think I agree with Mina. Impressed by Miami's defense last week, but this unit should dominate.
I thought you were going to say something else.
I agree with Dan.
Yeah.
I agree with him agreeing with me.
I know. Patrick Ricard coming back, too. I mean, that's so huge.
He's a huge part of their offense.
Big piece of what they want to do. All right, now, just speaking to their chances going forward, after a win over Chicago, the Ravens now sit at 2-5 on the season, but just 2 games back of the Steelers for the division lead. With that victory, Baltimore's chances to win the AFC North jumped from 23% to 43%. How important that game was. That's just behind the Steelers, who dropped from 64 to 47% to win the AFC North after their loss to the Packers. So, Marcus, looking big picture here, does this Ravens team have enough to make a run and really dig themselves out of this hole?
I do, Boogie, and it's based on what Mina and Dan just talked about as well, getting healthier and having your full boat on the football field. Obviously, the defense has been very disappointing, but also you got a couple guys back on that side. You saw Kyle Hamilton play in some different spots. Roquan Smith being back in the lineup as well. I think this team is going to be poised. And look, I don't know how healthy Lamar Jackson hamstring is, because that, to me, is going to be a big deal as he goes. Hopefully he can fully heal while he plays football. But his ability to break the pocket, his ability to play extend, all of those things are going to come into play. But when you look at this schedule, right? Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, all of those are winnable. You look all the way until probably the Patriots as a team that's been pretty consistent.
Giants telling teams pass rusher Kayvon Thibodeau not available for potential trade. Senior news writer the New York Giants will keep their pass rushing trio together past the NFL trade deadline on November 4. NFL Network insider Mike Garafolo reported on Tuesday that a few teams have reached out to the Giants regarding Kayvon Thibodeau, and they've been told there's no interest in trading the former first-round pick, per sources informed of the situation. Thibodeau is under contract through 2026 on. His fifth-year option worth $14.751 million. The impetus behind the trade calls is that the 2022 number 5 overall pick might not have a long-term future in New York. The Giants paid Brian Burns in 2024 and drafted Abdul Qadir number 3 overall in 2025. Keeping the trio together long-term would be expensive. Related INKS Thibodeau has generated 2.5 sacks and 25 QB pressures this season. Per Next Gen Stats in theory, right now, Thibodeau's trade value would be at its highest, with any team being able to count on him in 2026 for a relatively low cost. If they look to trade him next year, he would likely be a rental. With the Giants needing to build around Jackson Dart, more draft picks wouldn't hurt. They currently have 7 selections in the 2026 draft with no third-rounder. Alas, NFL teams simply don't operate that way. With general manager Joe Chun and Brian Daboll fighting for their jobs, they won't break up the strength of an already questionable defense. The calculus in keeping a player like Thibodeau is also that turnarounds happen quickly in the NFL. The 6-2 New England Patriots being the latest example in 2025. If clubs did shell out players not in their future plans like other sports, it would make the NFL trade deadline far more entertaining. Trades might have increased in recent years, but we get few blockbusters, with teams electing to hold onto their would-be trade assets like Thibodeau and hope their fortunes eventually change. Related content news roundup. NFL news roundup. Isaiah Pacheco week to week. Jaden Daniels expected to practice Wednesday. Published October 28, 2025 at 12:29 p.m. Updated October 28, 2025 at 5:55 p.m. Around the NFL staff. NFL.com. NFL.com keeps you up to date with all of the latest league news from around the NFL. Visit NFL.com's transaction hub for a daily breakdown. Arizona Cardinals 2-5 GSRB Michael Carter, practice squad. DB Darren Hall, practice squad. Roster cuts of Dearness Johnson, practice squad. WR Bryson Green, practice squad. T. Nick Muse, practice squad. INGURS Atlanta Falcons 3-4 NGSCB AJ Woods, practice squad. Buffalo Bills 5-2 NGSDT Jordan Phillips, active roster. S. Jordan Poyer, active roster. INGURSDT Ed Oliver, biceps, was placed in injured reserve. OUTSDT. Raekwon Davis Carolina Panthers 4-4 Michael Tarquin, practice squad. Pound Travis Gibson, signed off 49ers practice squad. Roster cuts Jaden Crumdy DB Mike Reed, practice squad. Chicago Bears 4-3 Assist being signed to the practice squad. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported that INGURS DL Austin Booker was activated off injured reserve. DL Shema Turner was placed on IR. Cincinnati Bengals 3-5 injury-esque Matt Lee, knee, was placed on injured reserve. LB Shaka Hayward, fibula, was placed on IR. Roster cuts Mike Pennell Cleveland Browns 2-6 roster cuts Gladarius Henderson, practice squad. Denver Broncos 6-2 roster cuts Sam Ehlinger WR Samari Toure, practice squad. Garrett Nelson, practice squad. Other NW Swaz taken off the reserve. Suspended list after serving his 1-game suspension. Test Mercedes Lewis Detroit Lions 5-2 injuries. Currently on the physically unable to perform list, is returning to practice. Kansas City Chiefs 5-3 INGURASIS considered week to week after spraining his MCL during over the Commanders. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported. Las Vegas Raiders 2-5 roster cuts Justin Shorter. Los Angeles Chargers 5-3 GSDD Kyle Pico, practice squad. S. Marcus Williams, practice squad. Injurious Mackie Becton, knee, is expected to practice on Tuesday. Per head coach Jim Harbaugh. CB Dean Leonard will have his 21-day practice window opened on Tuesday. Per Harbaugh. CB Tahib Still, knee, is not expected to play in Week 9 against the Titans. Per Harbaugh. S. Derwin James, ankle, is expected to practice on Tuesday. Per Harbaugh. Roster cuts of Nyheim Hines, practice squad. WR Luke Grimm, practice squad. Los Angeles Rams 5-2 SW Tyler Scott, practice squad. Roster cuts Trey Brown Miami Dolphins 2-6 INGURS QB Tua Tagovailoa told reporters that the swelling around his eye has gone down, but he plans to wear a visor again for Thursday's game against the Ravens. LB Bradley Chubb, shoulder or foot, is expected to play on Thursday, per head coach Mike McDaniel. McDaniel told reporters that he's very confident Chubb will be available barring a setback. CB Storm Duck was placed on injured reserve. DB Kendall Sheffield was placed on the practice squad injured reserve. NGSDB Ethan Robinson, practice squad. Minnesota Vikings 3-4 roster cuts Kayvon Wallace, practice squad. New England Patriots 6-2 Sajan GSRB Rashawn Baker, practice squad. RB Jonathan Ward, practice squad. CB Marcus Jones has agreed to a 3-year contract extension that is worth $36 million in new money, per NFL Network insiders Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. The team has since announced the news. Jones, a 2022 third-round draft pick, has emerged as a vital member of the Pats secondary with 2 interceptions and 9 passes defensed in 8 games this season, 5 starts. Jones also shines as a returner, Earning first-team All-Pro honors in 2022, ING-URSRB Jayshawn Corbin was placed on practice squad injured reserve. New Orleans Saints 1-7 other NWS New York Giants 2-6 signings Rusta Kutza and Wayne Wells Jr. Practice squad. ING-URSRB Cam Scatterbo RBUS Kayvon Thibodeau UTSQB Jaron Hall WR Deontay Johnson 1-7 Rusta Kutza Brandon Smith was waived. Philadelphia Eagles 6-2 Sojourn NGSDB Parry Nickerson. Practice squad. Pittsburgh Steelers 4-3 ING-URSRB Jesus Bean. Signed to the practice squad. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported. Rusta Kutza Brahim Blackshear. Practice squad. DT Dominique Davis was waived. LB Jacobe Windmon. Practice squad. Tryouts 5-3 Andre Delaird. Practice squad. Rusta Kutzel Brandon Parker. Practice squad. Tiro UTSLB Cleveland Farrell 5-2 ING-URSRB Robiats Tennessee Titans 1-7 NGSWR Hull Presley 3. Practice squad. Pound Truman Jones CB Keeman Hall. Practice squad. CB Micah Robinson ING-URSLB Aligay was placed. On injured reserve STR Kutzel Bochorn Mathis. Practice squad. Washington Commanders 3-5 Injurious Rusta CUTS Matthew Wright. Practice squad. Related content. You are unable to interact with this content due to your cookie consent choices. You can enable cookies in the footer by selecting cookie setting. NFL Power Rankings. Week 9. Chargers, Texans, and Ravens on the rise. Steelers. Falcons scuffling published. October 28, 2025 at 11:24 a.m. Eric Edholm lead draft writer. It was a semi-chalky week 8, at least as far as the heavyweights were concerned. The Colts kept rolling, supporting last week's elevation up the charts. The Chiefs, Packers, and Eagles all won by double digits. The Buccaneers and Bills both atoned for losses by rampaging on the road. But the farther down you go to the middle class, things get murkier. The 49ers and Steelers suffered tough defeats. The Bears missed a golden opportunity to win their 5th straight in a matchup with the Lamar Jackson-less Ravens. And what in tarnation happened in Atlanta and Cincinnati? There was no seismic power rankings